Hello and a very warm welcome back, or a welcome to Hungary. We're in Europe for round 4 of Euroformula Open at the Hungaroring. It's race 3 of 3 this weekend, the final race that will see these drivers do battle. And after the action from race 1 yesterday and race 2 earlier today, the Euroformula stage is set once again for a very wet race. The heavens have finally opened here in Hungary and the race has been declared wet and will start behind the safety car, which means we will have no formation lap and we will get the race started straight away. But hopefully, once a few exploratory laps have been done and they've worked out where the drying track is occurring, as we see the water absolutely pummeling it down on the main straight as Bassi works his way around to the grid. We'll find out in a few moments how these cars can tackle the wet weather here in Hungary. Up in the commentary box, my name is Harry Benjamin. It's an absolute pleasure to guide you through the action as ever. Alongside me, Elliot Wood. And Elliot, we've had some great racing action so far, not to mention in race 2, with a new race winner for Casper Stevenson. The rookie took his first win ahead of Nazim Asman and Bassi. And it's been a great weekend so far for the Van Amersfoort racing team too.
Yeah, Van Amersfoort Racing has won in so many junior single-seater categories, and Euroformula, which has kind of drifted away from Formula 3 regulations-wise, is a new one to tick off the list. They used that yesterday with Bassi with a brilliant tyre management race. And then earlier today, Casper Stevenson took the lead at the start of the race, and then a little bit of squabbling behind on that first lap, and he had 2.2 seconds in hand straight away. And from there, he could just manage his pace as everyone else fought for position behind him. So 2 races this weekend, 2 wins for Van Amersfoort.
And Enzo Schionti in the DriveX car really giving it some out the final corner there, pushing the limits of the track. Philippe Caminiars comes out too in the number 88 Crypto Tower Racing Machine, the Polish 19-year-old. Almost a home race. Poland not too far away from Hungary. Only an hour and a half flight from here, so the Polish contingent is very strong. But we do have a driver on the grid, and it is her home race. Vivian Kasei already scoring a couple of points in 9th place in yesterday's race, hoping to pick up a few more this afternoon. She goes from 10th on the grid, the home hero from Hungary. But it will be Cameron Dass, the American racer currently leading the championship, who starts on pole position. Bit of a curious race that he had earlier today in race 2. Qualified at the back of the pack due to retiring in race 1. And although having the pace to be up there with the leaders, just decided to fall back slightly, and he had a steering issue, did Das, affecting the whole race, caused him to come into the pit lane early on, switched out the steering wheel, and it immediately fixed itself. And then he was able to get going again. Luckily, he said it wasn't the plan to just stay at the back and get fastest lap, and in doing so secure pole position for race 3. Well, that wasn't the plan, but you know, it helped. So Das hoping to have a better run of luck and form in race 3. He's shown he's got the pace once again, and now starting from pole. Also saying to me when I caught up with him just outside his team garage that he's seen a lot of the pole sitters struggle to get off the line as quickly as their second place counterparts. And Das saying, yeah, I think you've just got to be able to commit to one line or the other. It's very difficult to cut across to that inside line because you know that's the main overtaking spot. So either commit to the outside or risk losing time by cutting across to defend. So it's a catch 22. Is that what it is? A catch 22? That's a catch. That's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I sometimes call it a trap as well. You try and do one thing, but then it falls into the thing you're trying to avoid. It is a trap. You start on pole, and the inside line, especially when the cars are all so closely packed together, is the beneficial line. Turn 1 out of 14 turns here is the most lucrative for overtaking. 4.3 kilometers, 2.7 miles. The run down to turn 1 is 618 meters. But we will be starting this race under safety car. To reiterate that once again, we're about 20 kilometers north of Budapest. Vivian Kasei coming through our pictures now in the number 17 Motorpart entry from Hungary, from Debrecen to be precise, is the first ever Hungarian to race in Euroformula Open, with backing from Audi as well. The young racer in the
2018 Audi LMS and the R8 LMS Cup. Came second overall on that with 3 podiums. Then spent 2019 in the W Series before making the move up to Euroformula Open. And a good round in Belgium, saw her score points in every single race. 9th place in race 2. Vivian Cassay hoping for a little bit more come race 3. But we haven't had a wet race in some time in Euroformula Open. I'm trying to think if we've had one this season so far. I'm sure we probably have, and I'm sure I'll be proven wrong. And I will blame me not being here for the first round in Portugal if there was rain in Portugal. But I think I'm going to put my life on the line here and say this is the first wet race we've had this season. So unknown territory for these drivers in these Euroformula Open cars.
Keep calm.
Rafael Villagomez being told there to keep calm at the start. In second, just ahead of Nazim Azman, started on pole in race 2. Couldn't convert that into the win, but came home in second. That sees him starting third, though, for...
And Villagomez, like Cameron Das, spent quite a while in the pits because he had a track rod issue. And like Das went, oh, well, I can go and try and get fastest lap, and that's why he started second on the grid.
So a great recovery there for Rafael Villagomez ahead of Nazim Azman. And this morning's race winner, yesterday's 5th place finisher, Casper Stevenson, is ahead of yesterday's race winner, Cem Bolot-Bassi, making his debut. This is going to be a tricky one for Bolot-Bassi. This is definitely his first wet race in Euroformula Open. Along with Jack Crawford, the rookie, the Red Bull driver, showing a lot of pace so far this weekend, but unfortunately caught up in a few incidents which have seen him have to cut through the back of the pack. Race 2 this morning looked a little like this in Hungary, a lot drier, and Nazim Azman starting from pole. Casper Stevenson right up alongside him, having to defend from Joshua Dirksen, actually, who was really hounding them for third. But before the end of the main straight, Casper Stevenson was already a wing in front of poleman Nazim Azman, and that is how it stayed for the rest of the race. Azman was going to try and give it all he got, but couldn't quite manage it. Mason, unfortunately, was clattered into further back in the pack. That saw him lose positions left, right, and centre. Meanwhile, though, it was Casper Stevenson leading the way. The battle was heating up, though, for fourth between Louis Foster, Joshua Dirksen, and Jack Crawford, but finding it difficult to pass round here. Getting close, but no cigar. Meanwhile, at the front, as this pack keep coming through, Casper Stevenson was untroubled, leading the way to his first victory in Euroformula Open. Ahead of Nazim Azman and Cem Bolot-Bassi, made it a double podium for Van Amersfoort Racing. And look at that, the fans still here, out in force, with that wet rain pummeling down on them. The umbrellas are out. I don't know how much that'll be actually helping. And certainly, these drivers are going to be feeling a little bit wet inside their cars on the overalls. And you can hear it pattering down onto the main straight. We will start behind the safety car, and when it is deemed necessary, we will get underway. The safety car starts moving on the grid, and that is effectively, the green flag will fly, and that is effectively the race start here in Euroformula Open under safety car. 18 laps ahead of us. And it will be Casper Stevenson, Villagomez, Azman, Stevenson, Bolot-Bassi, Crawford, Mason, Foster, Dirksen, Vivian Cassay rounds out the top 10. Then it is Chovanec, Caminiars and Enzo Schionti, the last of the runners in 13th place. Casper Stevenson, the leading rookie, in 4th. So, Elliot, what are they going to be thinking about behind this safety car here? Because no, they haven't had a safety car start at the moment. It's different under restarts, isn't it? So it's a lot to soak up for Cameron Das. Will actually he think this is benefiting him slightly because it means less laps to run under full racing speed?
Potentially, there's a double-edged sword there, because you want to know what the track is like at full racing speed, because that's the only way you're going to know where your braking points are going to be, where are the grippy parts of the track, where it's really, really sliding. There's standing water, which we do see at some of these dips. But at the same time, the longer you do spend behind the safety car, the cooler you keep those tyres, the more water you do displace without the risk of crashing. But it's so wet. In these seconds, you just want to get along with it, because the longer you have in these conditions, and the more kind of maybe a little snap of oversteer here, or a patch of water you run through and the car slides a bit more there, it just gets you a bit more nervous, and it just rises and rises, and then you're more likely to make mistakes when the race does actually probably get underway. There's a big gap there between our top 6 cars, it looks like, and then Louis Foster, that is, behind. So maybe he's deliberately let the cars ahead to pull away so he can a bit clear air, accelerate a bit more out the corners and see exactly what the conditions are like.
Well, exactly that, because following each other so closely, they're going to be really putting up the spray, which is going to be very difficult. And you can see puddles forming there on the outside of the corners. And I think that's Casper Stevenson wanting to have a little go and see how that is. And Villa Gomez in front of him as well, just exploring, seeing where the really wet parts of this track are in the International GT Open race, which occurred just in the last hour or so. The rain started to come towards the end of this session, but nothing like we're seeing now. But even that was putting cars out of the race and into a spin. So these Euroformula Open cars just tentatively seeing what the conditions are like, and there's a danger here that a few rivers might start to form. We've seen a couple of wet races in Hungary over the years in different categories, most notably in Formula 1, and it can certainly chop and change a race. The safety car will stay in, it will stay out, I should say, not come in. And so Das will follow it round once again. Cameron Das ahead of Villa Gomez, Azman, Stevenson, Bolet Bassi, who on debut, the 23-year-old Turkish star, really famous in Turkey. We welcome all of his Turkish fans to Euroformula Open. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. Cem Bolet Bassi currently occupying 5th at the moment from Istanbul. Started out in motocross from 6 years old before switching to the esports world. In 2017, he actually joined Fernando Alonso's esport team, FA Racing, before joining the official Formula 1 esports championship with Toro Rosso. With a win in his first season, he came 5th overall. He carried on for a few more years, up to 2019, before he got a go in a Formula Renault Euro Cup car, while also racing in the GT4 European Series. So lots of different types of cars that Bolet Bassi comes with experience with as well. But still, at 23, the oldest driver in the field with the least amount of single-seater experience in the real racing world. 2020, he made the step up full time to GT4 European Series, came 2nd overall, 3 wins and 3 podiums. And what did he do when he debuted in Euroformula Open with VAR on Saturday? He won his first race, and he followed that up with a podium. Cem Bolet Bassi proving he's deserving of a full-time seat here with VAR.
And he actually topped free practice on Friday, despite only setting two and a half flying laps in total across the whole day, because he was torturing his tyres, didn't know what to do with them in the dry. Then he comes to the race and he just masters them. However, he said there was so much more time on the table and he was particularly looking forward to the rain. He thought that would be a good equaliser for him, not knowing that he would then win the next day. But he's saying if there's rain later this weekend, then that should be to my advantage. So he's pretty happy about the rain. I think more experienced drivers like Cameron Das as well. He has driven very wet races in Euroformula before, including the Pau Grand Prix, which is one of the best junior single-season performances I've ever seen. That race was very, very wet. Everyone remembers Billy winning. Cameron stayed on slick tyres the whole of that race, didn't crash once. And a lot of drivers did take little hits to the barriers. Billy Munker actually broke his steering in the middle of that race by crashing into the barriers.
Wow.
But Cameron Das kept it clean, didn't pit, and yeah, obviously that season didn't quite go to plan. But 2 years later, he's got all that experience in hand. So as well as sitting on pole, he has got the most relevant experience for these conditions.
Yeah, well, as I said, I did speak to Cameron a little early on. He just looked cool, calm and collected. It hasn't really gone his way this weekend. And a few incidents as well that weren't of his doing last time out in Belgium. But just staying calm, cool and collected. He's still in the lead of this championship, but hoping he can bring it home for a much-needed race win this afternoon in Hungary, 20 kilometres north of Budapest in Mogyor, which ranks 3rd among Hungary's top tourist destinations after the Danube Bend and the Danube River and Lake Balaton. A must-see place here in Hungary. 70,000 capacity here as well at the Hungaroring. We're not anywhere near that at the moment because we're only letting in a small handful of fans during this pandemic who are desperate to come and see some of the GT Open and Euroformula Open action, and we're just very pleased that we can offer them some great racing around this brilliant track. They say it's difficult to overtake it. It is, but it is doable. And when wet weather's involved, anything can happen around these 4.3 kilometers and 14 turns of track. We're located in a little bit of a valley as well, hence there can be quite a lot of downhill sloping around this track, which can lead to some rivers forming, which is why the safety car is out as well, because it's the first time these cars are out on track. So for everybody's safety, they need to know how the conditions are looking and how they're changing by the minute. With Das, Villagomez and Asman still leading this way after starting in the top 3 under safety car. Coming through the twisty, bumpy nature of this middle sector part of the track. Well, most difficult to overtake here. It's all about trying to stay with the car in front and line up a move into potentially the penultimate corner, maybe the final corner, but more likely than not, getting a good run out of that final corner down the main straight to late on the brakes on the inside into turn 1. The good news is, I think, for these drivers, that it won't be too dusty out there because of the wet weather, which has sort of cleared the track now. So grip at an all-time low, but this track quite famous for bringing in the dust through the winds around this Hungaroring circuit. But I think they'll be more worried about the spray that's been kicked out in front of them. Cameron Das won't mind, because when we do get going, he'll be leading the way with clear views in front of him. As you can see, Villagomez already pulling out to the side. They're all trying to find a bit of space behind each other because this spray just proving so difficult to navigate.
Yeah, visibility will be going down, and they would have made a lot of changes to their cars as well. I think depending on what the limits are with tyre pressures, you'd lower the tyre pressures to essentially give you more surface area and therefore more traction, and particularly through these lower speed corners. You'd have change of suspension setup as well. You want more mechanical grip. Aero grip literally means nothing in wet weather conditions, so you'll be wanting to be as strong as you can be in these very slow, almost 180-degree corners. We've now completed 3 laps of the race, so we've gone beyond what we were originally told was going to happen with the safety car. Maybe the driver in the Clio is just enjoying leading a Euroformula race, first time in their career.
Well, I think that's a Clio Cup car that's a long way from home at the moment. It's in the wrong race, leading the way here in Hungary. But it is the order as it stands. Leading rookie is Stevenson still, who has really improved his form from Belgium, learning more and more with every race. We can see him after each session. He's sat down looking at the data, talking with his managers and his engineers, trying to find more and more pace. And after Spa, he said he really felt he could see and feel the progress since pre-season testing. He said it benefits when he has his teammates here. Of course, Cem Bollet-Bassi entering a second car with VAR, and Rafael Villagomez re-entering the championship after missing 1 round in Belgium. So he really benefits from being able to feel more like a team with Rafael Villagomez and Cem Bollet-Bassi around him. So, and that proving to really come to fruition. Villagomez is performing very well this weekend as well.
Yeah, I'm sure for Casper Stevenson, he'll be wanting it to come home with his team as well. I've been waiting all day to say
that. Knew we'd get it in there at some point. I'm sure he will. Casper Stevenson, the sole British driver in the field. We've got a mixture of... oh, no, he's not. Sorry, I should say that. He's actually not. Go on, then.
Josh Mason as well.
Of course it is Josh Mason.
But we do have,
I'm going to get a telling off for that.
We have several allegiances, you could say, between the 2 final teams in that football tournament playing at the moment. It's dividing the whole paddock here.
It is dividing the whole paddock here. No, it is Stevenson and Mason, who I'm sure will be straight on to the TV after this lap to have a look and see where we stand. But they've gratefully timed this before. We've got a car off there into the gravel, though. And that's Louis Foster, who's found the gravel. Louis Foster into the gravel, the 3rd of the Brits on this field. Louis Foster has fallen down the pack now. Could just see, I think it was the blue glints there. He has, as the safety car comes in at the end of this lap. Louis Foster, is he going to be able to regain his positioning? Let's see, where's he? Has he caught the back of the pack? He's really fallen down. It's currently registering as in 9th. Das will take over as the leader. I think Foster has been able to hold on to 9th position there, but a bit of confusion as we get this safety car in this lap, and Das will take over as the race leader ahead of Villagomez and Asman in 3rd. The top 3 as we come through the final lap here. We'll bring you up to speed on where Louis Foster has dropped down to, but as we cut across the line for our first proper racing lap in anger, bringing up the spray and heading the field is Cameron Dass. You can see all the cars trying to find their own way through. You just cannot see anything in the spray behind another driver. Looks like Foster is in 8th position. Dass, though, leading the way. Are they all playing it safe into this turn 1? Foster down the inside, having a go on fellow Brit Mason, as we see two of the VAR cars in the background having a go at each other. I think that's Stevenson and potentially Bassi for 4th and 5th.
And he has lost a position to Jack Crawford, who gets several snaps off. Is that Louis Foster already back up to 7th place? Now, that is slightly confusing if it was, in fact, Foster who did go off during lap 3 behind the safety car. So Crawford ahead, Foster ahead of Mason, Dirksen in 9th place, Chovanec ahead of Castelli. It's all going right now.
I'm almost certain it was Louis Foster, because I was chatting absolute rubbish about British drivers and he was one of them, but Dass leading the way from Villa Gomez and Asman as they clatter the curbs, but they're all getting a little bit squeaky on exit, especially Jack Crawford, who's pushing that car out. Nick Chovanec cutting the corner there. He's ahead of, he's just got ahead, I think, of Joshua Dirksen by doing that. I think he'll have to give that place back. We'll see where that move was done. The battle for 9th for the back. That is where Louis Foster went off in the background during the safety car lap. He has recovered to 7th at the moment, but Dass leading the way with a bit of a gap now, nearly 2 seconds the gap to Villa Gomez, who's hung on to 2nd, Nazim Asman in 3rd. Chovanec is now registering as an 8th ahead of Dirksen. Mason, unfortunately, has fallen to the back of this pack, so something's happened for Josh Mason, who is currently registering down in last position, just behind Scionti and Kasei, who's dropped down to 11th. Caminiars is 10th, that holds the fastest lap. Let's have a look. And I think this was where Louis Foster went off and Josh Mason. They both went off in the same place.
Yeah, so Foster went off at turn 10, but he kept it on the grass patch. Yeah, so now Mason's gone over the grass and then onto the bounce where the gravel is.
Oh, and did he just about keep it out of the wall? Maybe ever so slightly. I think he's got it beached there, and we have the safety car back out again for Josh Mason, who's not been able to get out of that gravel trap. So that gravel trap claimed Louis Foster during the safety car in lap, but he was able to just carry on through the gravel and rejoin the circuit. But unfortunately, Mason spinning out into the gravel and finding the wall, bringing out the safety car here. So as soon as we get underway, we get action. Dass ahead of Villa Gomez, Asman, Stevenson and Crawford. Your top 5, Bollet Bassi down to 6th, ahead of Louis Foster. Chovanec is 8th, Dirksen in 9th, Caminiars is 10th, ahead of Vivian Kasei in 11th, and Enzo Scionti in 12th. Josh Mason, I think, will be out of this race. He's registering as a lap down, unless he's able to get out of that gravel trap. I think he is out of this race. So 12 runners still left after a few laps of green race running, but mainly under safety car here at the Hungaroring. Just proving how tricky it is, and look at that, the puddles that are forming and the corners, and that is, I think, is you can see there Villa Gomez nearly having a little bit of a moment, and that is what is claiming, I think, a few of the drivers, that corner in particular, because that is the gravel. You can see Mason's car is still in the barrier there, but good to see Josh Mason out and walking away from that. Unfortunately, though, it's an early bath for Josh Mason. Dass leads the way from Villa Gomez and Asman. And that is coming through turn 10 that has claimed Mason and Foster, with a huge puddle and river forming on the outside of 10, which I think a lot of the drivers will be most notably complaining about.
It looks like Castelli has gone off as well, potentially, because she was ahead of Scionti. Now she's behind. There's no second split time.
And you're right, she's in. Is at the same place?
Yeah, turn 10 in the gravel. She's out as well.
Oh, gutted.
Oh, no.
Home hero, Hungarian racing driver Vivian Kasei. It looks like she is out in the exact same place that has claimed Josh Mason and Louis Foster, but he managed to fight another day, did Foster. So that turn 10 is really proving tricky. And I think it is because there's basically a bit of a river that's formed just on the outside as you come in.
Yeah.
As you take it's not right on the racing line, but I can imagine it's very easy to clip one of your tyres and that will just send you right around.
It's very similar to Blanchimont when the river goes across the circuit, but because you're turning left, and you should never really be turning when you're crossing water, the rear end will just shoot out and send you off and away. Yeah.
Off and away. Unfortunately, though, Kasey out of this race by the looks of it, and she is able to climb out of her car, though, so good to see her walk away from that too. The rain still coming down.
But it's got a little lighter, I think, because, you know, there's big puddles everywhere, but the puddles are kind of smaller than they were earlier. And actually in the GT race earlier, when we thought it was soaked, there weren't many puddles at all. So clearly the standing water from earlier didn't actually go away, and we're just adding to what we had about an hour ago in the Hungaroring.
That is the issue, isn't it? It's the standing water that is going to cause an issue. Yeah, it is. Just getting confirmation on our timings for his car 21 and 77. So there's Mason and Kasey, both out in turn 10 into the gravel, but both are okay. Unfortunately, they'll be on the early flight home. Das, though, holding on to the lead, navigating these tough conditions ahead of Villa Gomez and Asman. Stevenson is 4th, Crawford rounds out the top 5, Bassi is in 6th, Chovanec 7th, Dirksen is 8th, Foster is 9th, Caminias is in 10th, Schionti, Kasey and Mason round out the bottom of this field, and we've lost Mason and Kasey. So now we're just down to 11 runners, and here is that tentative turn 10. You can see Crawford going right through the river there, having a look. All of them going very slowly, because they would have been told on the radio that 3 cars have gone off there in the last 3 laps. We see these awesome slow-mo shots of the top 3 coming through. Das, Villa Gomez, that's Asman.
Front wings are really taking a battering there over the curve.
They really are, shaking and vibrating like mad, and I'm sure their helmets are going to be... They need their own windscreen wipers, I think, on them.
What you would want to do to also gain, well, at least make the car easier to drive, is lower the fuel levels slightly in the wet. But because we've added an extra 2 laps to this race, and that's kind of in the regulations that you do that when buying the safety car, they wouldn't be able to make that kind of maneuver to make the cars easier to drive. So I think almost, you know, the cars, you can do little bits, but because of our regulations in the Euroformula series, they're actually still almost dry focused cars, if that makes sense. And there's not enough of a compromise that's taking place, so it's particularly difficult, even behind the safety car, to keep it on track.
These new Dallara F320 cars as well debuted in Hungary last year. In 2020, redesigned monocoque, slightly decreased in weight as well. They're about 580 kilograms with the driver included in that. The aerodynamics have been upgraded to lift the car's performance, to all help with the racing and the overtaking as well. So we've done away with the lap count, and we're now going to time. 16 minutes remain on the clock, so we shall see how much green flag racing action we can get here for the final race of this weekend for Euroformula Open at the Hungaroring. We will also head to Imola, the Red Bull Ring in Austria, Monza at the Temple of Speed in Italy, and we'll finish the season in Barcelona, all being well, at the end of October. So still a fair way to go. We're about the halfway point in the Euroformula Open season, with Cameron Das, our current race leader, being our current championship leader too, the American, hoping it stays that way. The 21-year-old from Baltimore, been in Euroformula since 2018, dovetailing other series alongside it as well. Feeling like he's got a good setup and a good car this year. Good team around him as well. Feeling cool, calm and relaxed, with a spectacular pair of shades I saw him wearing earlier in the paddock.
Proper aviators, yeah. Proper aviators.
They're cool. I looked at that and thought, yeah, they're cool. I want one. They're cool. So wherever he gets there, I'm going to buy my next pair. Rafael Villa Gomez also has had a really relaxed look about him this weekend, and perhaps that's helping him ever so slightly. Having a tough Formula 3 campaign at the moment, but Euroformula Open seemingly improving for him this time around. The safety car, though, will be in this lap, and we will get about 14 minutes, just under, of green racing action, hopefully, but it will be another tentative start, I think, as all of these drivers remaining will battle it out, not just against each other, but the track conditions too. Das will lead them out from Villa Gomez and Asman. We have lost Vivian Kasey and Josh Mason to turn 10, so we'll be watching that like a hawk when they make their way through into that middle sector. But right now, at the start of this lap, we are back underway here in Hungary. It is Cameron Das who leads the way from Vilagomez and Asman. And look at the spray still being kicked up here. Vilagomez sticking with him, though. The rest of the cars jostle for position, trying to find a part of the track where they're not being affected by the spray from the car in front of them. All of them just about keeping it clean. Louis Foster trying to go around the outside of Joshua Dirksen. I think that was into turn one. Jack Crawford defending from Bolot Bassi. That's over for 5th place, really forcing the young Turkish driver out into the grass. Clean moves though, and both make it through safely. Chovanec as well coming under pressure here from Bolot Bassi as well. I think that was a little bit further down the field. So all change here at the...
Bolot Bassi is then under pressure from Chovanec as well, but the track is really kicking up some spray, and that's going to ruin the visibility of the drivers behind. But it also means, you know, when the rear end steps out, you can't even see where your rear end is, because not only is it moving not in the direction you want it to, but there is loads and loads of spray behind as well.
As they come through that perilous turn 10, which they seem to have all just about made it through. But second place, Rafael Vilagomez getting very wide coming into the penultimate corner there. That's going to allow Nazim Asman to close up to the back of him in the battle for second and third. But I think Vilagomez has just about got away from that. Crawford has been quite silent but deadly, getting up to 4th at the moment ahead of Stevenson and Bolot Bassi. But it's Das who leads the way from Vilagomez and Asman. Crawford in 4th, Stevenson 5th, Bolot Bassi in 6th. Nazim Asman looking to the inside line, trying to find a bit of clean space, but also defending from Jack Crawford further back in the pack. Bolot Bassi coming under pressure from Chovanec, and Chovanec almost cuts across Louis Foster, who just sees him coming, but that could have been disastrous there for the Brits, racing the Venezuelan-born Czech. And Chovanec now, though, trying to get round the outside of Bolot Bassi. It's going to be a difficult move around the outside there as Bolot Bassi shows him the door and then closes it on him. Bolot Bassi not giving up 6th just yet. There behind Stevenson as well. It looks like Crawford is really hounding Asman for the final podium position too. 11 minutes to go on the clock. Louis Foster now has gotten to the back of Zdeněk Chovanec. Joshua Dirksen watching all of this as well behind, lurking in 9th. At the moment, Enzo Schionti, the last of the runners, in 11th. Philippe Camillard rounding out the top 10. Louis Foster down the inside into 6 and 7. Manages to get through on Chovanec. Louis Foster up a place after that off through turn 10. Was able, though, to survive it, unlike Kasey and Mason, who unfortunately found the gravel. They are both out of this race, but both out and okay. Foster through on Chovanec for 7. Das still leading the way with the fastest lap too.
It looks like the rain has stopped now all around the circuit, so it's purely just the standing water they're going to have to navigate. But, you know, if there's no more rain, then the standing water won't change position at any point. So they know it's there, they know where they can avoid it, and obviously they know where they can drive, you know, through it as well, safely.
Well, we've had a couple of laps now under these conditions, so the drivers seemingly knowing where to go and where to be, and as ever, the more they drive on it, the more a dry line appears, which is going to make overtaking very perilous indeed if you want to brave it on the wet stuff, either on the inside or on the outside of each corner at Apex. But at the moment, just having a look down to see where the closest battles are. I think it is Asman and Vilagomez, the battle for second that we're watching now. But Jack Crawford as well. Asman's off. Asman can't keep it turned in. Is he going to lose out to Crawford there? Crawford's going to be able to gain a lot of time on him. Asman cuts back across onto the racing line. Just about holds on to second place, going out very wide there in that long left-hander of 2. But that has put him right into the clutches of Jack Crawford. Crawford watching on. This is the most difficult part to overtake on the track here in the middle sector, especially when you can't really see the car in front of you. Cameron Das sets another fastest lap. The gap now between the top 2 is 2.3 seconds. I think that was Stevenson getting a little bit crossed wires there. Louis Foster trying around the outside there on Bolid Bassi, and then that becomes the inside for the next corner, coming through now into turn 10. It looks like Louis Foster, brilliant move there from the Brits, through on Cem Bolid Bassi for 6th place. Louis Foster displaying some excellent racing manoeuvres there. He now will have Foster next up in his sight. So Stevenson next up in his sight. Foster making all the moves here at the moment, ahead of Cem Bolid Bassi. And seemingly with some decent pace on him as well.
And Foster and Chovanec, I think, will be our top 2 contenders right now for getting those extra 2 points in the most positions gained from your starting spot. I think Chovanec started 11th, he's currently 8th. Foster started 8th, so he's actually now in 6th, so he's only made up 2 places. Complete the 11th lap. Cameron Dass now 3 seconds ahead of Villa Gomez. Another 1.8 seconds to Asman, who's still holding off Crawford. And we're seeing some lovely slow motion replays of Crawford, all at the wheel, you know, steering even in a straight line. That's how little grip there is out there. And most of the drivers are setting personal bests, so the track is certainly improving. Whether it dries enough that the tyres start overheating, I don't think it will.
Well, with just 7.5 minutes left of this race to go, they'll see very quickly whether it dries out enough to warrant any change to their driving style. But right now, Cameron Dass is seemingly enjoying this run out in first place with a 2.8 second gap. Looks like he's managing that fairly well from the Mexican of Rafael Villa Gomez, who's ahead of the Malaysian-born driver Nazim Asman, racing in 3rd place at the moment. That's currently your podium positioning. The leading rookie is Jack Crawford, ahead of Kasper Stevenson. Zdeněk Chovanec, 3rd rookie, down in 8th, ahead of Joshua Dirksen, who had a good run to the podium in race 1, but struggling with these wet conditions, seemingly down in 9th position for Joshua Dirksen. See a message on our timing board, car 66, that is Zdeněk Chovanec for Double R Racing, is under investigation for allegedly overtaking by cutting the chicane. I think we actually caught that, didn't we? Him overtaking, I think it might have been Dirksen at the start of the first safety car restart.
So Foster is attacking Bolid Bassi now as well, again, or is that Stevenson actually? He's getting very close, just about avoids contact. No, that is Bolid Bassi. So Bolid Bassi got back past him at some point, and he's now gone back down the inside of him to reclaim the position, but Bolid Bassi is now back ahead. That's 3 position changes in 2.5 corners there. Bolid Bassi is back ahead into 6th place. Here's a replay of Philippe Cominiar's spinning out the chicane, but that's further down the order. Hasn't really impacted anything because he was only ahead of Enzo Scionti. Going back to Louis Foster as well, obviously he went off under the safety car. If he did lose positions, he then would have reclaimed them under the safety car. So the fact that we haven't seen an investigation must have meant that despite going off, he didn't actually lose a single spot.
I'd need to see a replay on that one, because Louis Foster certainly did go off, and the safety car hadn't come in yet. That was the issue. It was still out, so all the cars were so tightly packed together that I can't imagine he wouldn't have lost a position. So Foster currently in 7th place now after having got through Bolid Bassi. Bolid Bassi now through on him again. Great battle between these two in 6th place. Stevenson now up the road a little bit in 5th. But Bolid Bassi and Foster. Bolid Bassi reigning supreme currently ahead of Foster in 6th. I think Foster cut the chicane there because he was all over the back of Bolid Bassi coming out of 6 and 7 there, as Zdeněk Chovanec getting very squirrely on the rear there. He's currently defending from Joshua Dirksen down in 9th.
Cameron Dass has just set the fastest lap again. That's Bolid Bassi, and Foster just comes back onto the track by Louis Foster. So Foster's now back in 6th place, Bolid Bassi in 7th, but he seems to have the better traction. Not the speed of Foster, but certainly better traction going into these lower speed corners, and that is actually something the Crypto Tower drivers were discussing earlier this weekend.
A nice freebie from Louis Foster there, who manages to retake 6th place from Bolid Bassi. Bolid Bassi, of course, this is his first experience of wet conditions in a Euroformula Open car in race trim. So learning and getting to grips and putting on a great battle as well. Let's see how it happened. They went through turn 10 side by side, and then Foster took the racing line, and I think unfortunately Bolid Bassi just found and got led on to the runoff area. I don't think he was pushed off there. I think that line just doesn't two into one doesn't go there.
It looks like he went through a whole river just on like the exit of the corner. And once you're on that, you can't turn in because you will just spin. So he kind of did the safe thing there by taking to the off track. Das has set the last 3 laps have been successive fastest laps. He's now 4 seconds ahead of Villa-Gomez, pulling away by around 4 tenths a lap as well. Asman in third, Crawford fourth, Stevenson holding on to fifth. Foster and Bolobassi have cost themselves 3 seconds to the gaps to the drivers ahead because they have been battling every single lap.
Yeah, that's allowed Stevenson to get on the road a bit at the moment. The Cameron Das holding Rafael Villa-Gomez now at a 3.7 second gap, and there is confirmation that Zdeněk Chovanec must give back his position to Joshua Dirksen, who I'm pretty sure Chovanec cut the corner to overtake Dirksen and then didn't give the position back. So that is pretty clear cut. And the race stewards seem to have seen that as well. So Chovanec is currently in 8th, so he'll have to let Dirksen by before the end of the race. Dirksen about 3 tenths of a second behind him. So thankfully for Chovanec, no one's got in between them, so he won't have to lose more than 1 position. And it should just be a simple straight swap and a battle to the end with just 2.5 minutes left on the clock. 13 laps have gone by. We will start lap number 14, and Cameron Das will lead us away once again ahead of Villa-Gomez. Now that gap up to 4.5 seconds now, so he's gained a couple more seconds in that last lap. And what are we having here? Chovanec still going toe-to-toe with Dirksen. Is this how... didn't really look like Chovanec let Dirksen through there, just looked like Chovanec had kind of got his racing line wrong, and that allowed Dirksen through, and then they both got a lot of rear movement coming out of the chicane. Cameron Das using that old school go-karting outside line for these wet track conditions, as they all will. That's where most of the grip will be in these conditions, on the outside line. You can see a few bits of rubber still there lurking, but these tyres should make it to the end, no doubt. With a minute and a half to go, Das, Villa-Gomez, Asman, Crawford and Stevenson, your top 5. Then Louis Foster holding 6th now in front of Bolobassi, holds the fastest lap. Dirksen is 8th, who has now got ahead of Chovanec in 9th. Caminiars rounds out the top 10. Then it's Enzo Schionti, the last of the runners. Vivian Cassay we lost after she went off in turn 10 into the gravel, as did Josh Mason into the gravel and ever so slightly into the wall. Both are out of their cars, both are okay, which is the main thing. Great to see them walk away, but unfortunately no longer a part of this race, as we get Casper Stevenson really getting a lot of rear wheel spin up on his VAR machine. Carries on though, Stevenson occupying 5th place. Louis Foster trying to hunt him down in these closing stages of race 3 of Euroformula Open. Das, Villa-Gomez, Asman. Then we get Crawford, Stevenson and Foster. This battle is the closest on track at the moment, actually, although Crawford has just gone under a second now to Asman. So Crawford fighting for the final podium placing here as Cameron Das starts the final lap, the 15th and final lap here at the Hungaroring for Euroformula Open Race 3 of round 4, marking the halfway point of this season, all being well with the rest of the calendar. Cameron Das looks set to extend his championship lead if he can keep it on the black stuff towards the end of this race. Crawford 7 tenths of a second behind Asman now. Stevenson in 5th. Louis Foster is in 6th, about 1.5 seconds back from Stevenson, but catching him at a rate of knots. He's just set the fastest lap time as well of the race so far. Foster not wanting to give this one up without a good fight, even if it goes right up to the flag. Crawford thinking the same thing as well. He's only got a few corners left in which to try and get a podium to salvage what has been a bit of a disappointing weekend for Jack Crawford, showing so much promise and potential, but ultimately various incidents and collisions, not all of his doing, but unfortunately seeing him lose out on what could have been quite a hefty weekend of points for the young American racer. So currently down in 4th, staring at the back of Asman for 3rd place. Foster now about 2nd behind Stevenson, but running out of time as well. Foster with the fastest lap, having set that previously. in only the penultimate race that, but it will be Cameron Dass who will come round the final corner here at the Hungaroring. He hasn't put a foot wrong in these challenging conditions for race 3. Cameron Dass will cross the line to take yet another win in Euroformula Open and extend his championship lead. Jack Crawford will hound Nazim Azman right up to the line. He can't quite do it. Azman finishes off the podium placings in 3rd behind Rafael Villagomez, who comes home in 2nd. A nice consistent weekend from him. And we do have a spinner in the very last lap. The number 35 car of Enzo Schionti does make contact with the wall, but is able to keep on going. That will see him fall to the back of this pack, where he was anyway, in 11th place. But Cameron Dass, after navigating multiple safety cars, wet, torrential weather, parts of the track drying, parts of the track like a river, a clenched fist, he's won yet another race in Euroformula Open. Cameron Dass extends his lead ahead of Rafael Villagomez, who came home in 2nd, and Nazim Azman in 3rd. And I think that will be Cameron Dass's 5th win this season. So off to a blinder so far, as you can see him navigating his team Motorpark car through the chicane. He never really seemingly came under pressure, was able to hold Rafael Villagomez with a good gap. Ultimately, it was 6.8 seconds the gap to Villagomez, and then Azman. Crawford is 4th. Casper Stevenson came home in 5th. Louis Foster couldn't quite pip him. Manages 6th though, ahead of Cem Bolek-Bassi, Joshua Dirksen, Zdenek Chauvenet and Philippe Kaminiars rounds out the points with 10th place for the Crypto Tower Racing team. The Polish rider getting 10th place in race 3 of Euroformula Open. Enzo Schionti came home in 11th with a spin on the final lap, and unfortunately we lost Vivian Kasei and Josh Mason in the early stages of this race, both being claimed victim to the gravel and the river that was forming around turn 10. And here's what all of that does to the driver's standings. Cameron Dass now with a 19-point lead ahead of Louis Foster. Nazim Azman still holding on in there in 3rd. Casper Stevenson now puts himself into the fight in 4th ahead of Jack Crawford, and Rafael Villagomez the top 6. So this championship fight still very much on as we now enter the 2nd stage of Euroformula Open. And here is Cameron Dass crossing the line to take the win in Euroformula Open Race 3. Celebrations all round for the team Motorpark engineers and mechanics, who look very happy with that one. And Cameron Dass, the happiest of them all. He'll make his way out of that car, and I imagine he'll run straight over to his teammates as well, waiting for him to celebrate. Cameron Dass is your race winner for the final race at the Hungaroring. He made us wait for it, but he did it in style. The young American there goes over to say congratulations to his whole team, because it's a team effort at the end of the day. But the driver making the ultimate difference, Rafael Villagomez, once again backing up another podium finish with another podium finish, and another one for VAR as well, who have had a very successful weekend with multiple wins and podiums for the Van Amersfoort Racing team. And Nazim Azman once again proving consistency, but still that win eluding him at the moment for Villagomez, but he does for Azman, but he does come home in 3rd place. So another trip to the podium for the 19-year-old Malaysian. Cameron Dass now being pointed into the driver's room. He'll have to be weighed as well. And there in part for mate, your top 3 finishes. Jack Crawford just walking through your picture as well. Crawford finished 4th in the end, so perilously close to the podium placings, but I think he'll be happy to finish the race and bag a haul of points there for the American, after what's been a bit of a topsy-turvy weekend for him. But here, navigating the wet, Nazim Azman for Crypto Tower Racing Team came home in 3rd place. In 2nd, Rafael Villagomez gets another podium this weekend for Van Amersfoort Racing. He couldn't quite match the pace of the ultimate race winner. Those honours went to Cameron Dass for Team Motorbar, the number 28 driver, showing he could manage everything that came at him. Let's hear from him now.
Cameron Dass, back to P1 in the most difficult race of the season, probably.
Yeah, I'm really happy with that result. We've had a really challenging weekend. We had to replace the chassis on Friday. There were some tuning differences we needed to make for the new chassis in quali, so we weren't quite there in quali. And then we had a brake failure in race 1 when we were leading the race. So we've kind of had it all so far. But it's really good to be back on the top position.
How wet it was?
In the beginning, it was really difficult because turn 11 especially, even when we were behind the safety car, we were hydroplaning, even at those low speeds in first gear. So I was a bit nervous for the first lap, being the first one to go through there at full speed. And I think I nearly went off, to be quite honest, but kept it on the track and just put in solid laps after that.
Well done. It's good for the championship, and you're still there. Well done.
Race 3 at the Hungaroring got underway after the safety car pulled in for a wet start. Cameron Dass led the way, but the spray behind him saw all the drivers just trying to navigate their way through turn 1 as painlessly as possible. Visibility and track grip really proving difficult. There were a few, though, who were trying to take advantage further back in the pack, and not forgetting a few spinners as well. This illegal overtake Zdeněk Chovanec did on Dirksen. He had to give that back later on in the race. Turn 10 here was the first to claim multiple victims. Louis Foster lost it under the safety car. He managed to carry on, but Josh Mason found the gravel. That was his race done. Then we had another safety car, but managed to get back underway again. Cameron Dass once again leading them into turn 1 ahead of Rafael Villagomez and Nazim Azman. And nothing could stop Cameron Dass from pulling a sizable gap. Throughout the rest of this race, there were a few battles further back in the pack. Chovanec fancied a go on Dirksen once again, and then managed to get through and try and battle the Van Amersfoort racing car. The VAR car winning out on that occasion. Then Louis Foster wanted to come through on Chovanec and did a sublime move in these tricky conditions, coming through the tricky chicane. But in the end, with a sizable gap, it was the American Cameron Dass to take yet another race win in Euroformula Open at the Hungaroring ahead of Rafael Villagomez, and Nazim Azman came home in 3rd. A very happy team Motorpark as well in Parc Fome. And let's see your podium placings now. In 3rd place on the right-hand side of your screen is Nazim Azman. In 2nd on the left, Rafael Villagomez. On top step of the podium, it is the American Cameron Dass.
Well done, gentlemen. Congratulations. And now please...
Another well done to Cameron Dass, who gets another win under his belt in Euroformula Open. They raise their trophies. Jack Crawford joins them as well as the winning rookie in 4th. Picks up his podium. And they all have a bit of champagne to spray as well. Well, once again, well done to Cameron Dass. That brings us to an end of your Euroformula Open coverage. Do join us again when we get going in July for the next round in Imola. We hope to see you then.
Yeah,